And with that, I would like to introduce Chairman of Panthera's board, Jonathan Ayers. John served as chairman and CEO of IDEX Laboratories from 2002 to 2019. And there he led a group of more than 8,000 employees who are committed to the health and well-being of pets. John and his wife, Helene, have been generous supporters of Panthera since 2017. Together, they established the Ayers Wildcat Conservation Trust, which is committed to protecting wildcats and the landscapes that they depend on. John has a very strong interest in small cats, and he actually kickstarted Panthera's small cat program. John was elected chair of the board in 2021, succeeding our founder, Tom Kaplan, who remains an active member of our board today. So with that, I'll turn it over to John.
Maria, thank you. Thank you very much. Well, and I want to welcome all of our participants. You guys are all now joining me and Maria and the others here. You're all by definition cat people. And cat people are all over the world, legions of them, who dedicate themselves to the conservation of small cats. And it's just a very special group. I think it's, something that, at least in my case, God called me to do this. And so congratulations for that and for joining this webinar. Panthera is a very unique organization because it dedicated solely to the conservation of wildcats around the world, both big cats and small cats. So the name Panthera, you may wonder, kind of sounds like panther, which, by the way, panther, which is a mountain lion, is not part of the Panthera family. Who's part of the Panthera genus, which is one of the many genuses that make up the feline family in zoology? Well, those are lions, tigers, jaguars, leopards, and snow leopards. So these are the most charismatic species. They're the ones that get the most attention. Not enough attention, but they get the most attention, particularly in the conservation circles. So it seemed like a great name. But Panthera is dedicated to all 40 reputed 40 species. There are probably more, which we'll discover in time. But that's all we do. And having been involved with Panthera now for the last 7 years, when you make a contribution to a organization, I have found you're never really quite sure whether it's going to end up with its intended purpose, let alone be invested wisely. And I will tell you from my experience that Panthera is very, very effective and just an amazing organization with hundreds of people around the world who work on cat conservation. So my background, I have a degree in biochemistry, which means I had to take a lot of biology. Therefore I love nature. I always loved ecosystems. I love cats. You can see behind me some of my former cats. I've always had cats. I think cats are just so amazing. I mean, just the way they're designed by nature. And I'm talking about domestic cats. But one day about 7 years ago, I said, okay, I've always loved nature and I've always loved cats. But, I really didn't know anything about cats and nature. So I asked myself what kind of cats are in nature. And I started to do a little research. I ran across a book called Wild Cats for the World. And it was great because it went through all the different species and started with all the small cats. And then it ended up with the big cats. And it took me like a year and a half to get to the big cats because the small cats were so fascinating. And then the other great resource I found was the IUCN website called catsg.org. It has incredible information on cats, and of course the Panthera website. Anyway, all that led me to Panthera, and so my first love has been small cats. All 33 species, they're amazing. They're all unique. They're varied. They've adapted to their ecosystem, but they all share certain cat traits in common. They're all predators, hunters. They're all critical cogs. Many times they're apex or top of the predator food chain, which means they have a disproportionate impact on the ecosystem. Their absence puts everything out of balance. They're all mousers or birders or fishers or some combination, depending on their adaptations. You'll learn more about that. And they're incredibly cute. I mean, small cats, I mean, they vary in size, but they generally, most species are about the size of a domestic cat. And they're God's creations. And, you know, they're going to continue to thrive as they have actually for millions of years. These cats have survived 20 ice ages. And it's our job to make sure that we do everything to keep that. They'll take care of themselves if we don't get in the way by habitat loss or you know, other threats, which Axel will talk about. So anyway, let me introduce Axel Moehrenschlager. He's our today's speaker. He's the director of Panthera Small Cat Program, and he also has the role for conservation translocations. He is the world preeminent expert in translocating or reintroducing species where they've been lost. That takes a lot of science. It can be done very badly when done so, things go awry. But we do a lot of cat repopulations too in different species. So he holds a PhD from Oxford University, which is has the preeminent conservation program in the world. And he's adjunct professors or in Canada, US, UK, New Zealand. I guess he gets around, what you need to do because these small cats are all over the place. So he leads Panthera's efforts to protect the world's 33 plus species of small cats. And so without further ado, let me turn it over to Axel. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much, John, for those kind words. It's really such a pleasure. And, you know, I want to be able to talk to you. I'm so excited for all of you to be online, to talk to you about this really precious group of species, the small cats, which are so diverse, most of the world doesn't even know and very much needs our help. So it's an opportunity for us to make a difference. Just share my presentation here. Right. All right. And with that, we get into it. I mean, here we are with, for instance, a clouded leopard. But it reminds us of the ecosystems, for instance, where small cats live. We live in a beautiful world, a world where all that we have is supported by nature. Ecosystems thrive with species deeply connected in webs of life. And what we seek is a harmony between the needs of nature, of cats, of people. As John mentioned, you've likely heard of the snow leopard, the jaguar, the puma, leopard, cheetahs, tigers, lions, and they do need help, and they do get a lot of attention. But you might be surprised to know that over 4 times as many small cats, of course, exist as well, even in places where large cats do not, like the Moroccan desert, for instance, where hidden from plain sight, you find the adorable little sand cat. Now, this amazing cat living in the desert can actually go about 2 weeks without water, getting moisture only from its prey. And our work has shown that they actually range across 300 square kilometers, even though they're less than 5 pounds, about 100 square miles. And of course, they remind us so much of our feline friends at home. Here we have the African golden cat, a species that hunts at night, will even hunt for monkeys, but at the same time look to elude leopards, which can kill them on sight. Here's the ancestor of your house cat, the African wildcat. Again, this one, though, needs to earn its living out in the wild, working hard to hunt and to survive. As we travel around to Central and South America, we come to meet, for instance, the margay, an amazing species, very much hunting in the treetops, that can actually go down a tree head first to carry prey or to carry its young. How can it do that? By spinning its specially adapted ankles around 180 degrees. So you get a feeling for this amazing diversity of small cat species around the world that most people, as I say, haven't even heard of. But, in a world where humans have other concerns, other interests, why should we care about small cats at all? Well, like this manure from Asia, I think a fundamental question is, don't other species have a right to exist on this planet just as we do? Don't we want a planet where there's harmony between nature and people? And, after all, we are a very powerful species. And with that power, I think, comes a tremendous responsibility. Instead of defining ourselves through the power that we have to destroy things, don't we want to be about the ability to save things, to restore things, to make things better again through kindness and compassion? I think, and I hope we do. But even beyond that, there are other reasons why humans should care. Wildcats have enormous ranges that collectively occupy about 74% of the Earth's landmass. So it's actually a very efficient strategy. If we save them, we save a lot of broader biodiversity and what it provides for us. Cats are beautiful and they attract attention. If we can save them and save their habitats, then actually they act as an umbrella species for entire regions where there might be plants and animals that never get the attention, would never get the protection otherwise, that, unless basically these places are preserved for the cats. So wildcats maintain healthy ecosystems by balancing food webs and promoting biodiversity. And this, again, has these knock-on effects. I mean, really, these natural ecosystems provide us with clean water, with clean air, with medicine, and store carbon for us to mitigate climate change for free. Now, it would be easy to think that small cats are doing fine because, like this bobcat in Washington State, they can thrive in natural environments. In fact, they can even thrive near people too. I mean, I've had bobcats in my backyard. And the caracal, for instance, in and around Cape Town in South Africa, again, can be outside the city and inside the city. And while there are threats, they can actually exist in these types of places, even raising their adorable kittens close to people. So let us, though, take a bit of a journey around the world and visit different places to see how small cats are doing. First of all, let's go to Brazil, where actually we meet the ocelot, a very well-adapted species, actually doing reasonably well, that lives in places such as the Pantanal in Brazil, the most precious place for wetlands on the planet, harboring unbelievable biodiversity and endangered species. And here we see Raisa, our Brazilian PhD student, absolutely brilliant, carrying an ocelot that she put to sleep for a few minutes so that she can put a collar on so that we can study the needs that they have and the ways that we can best help them. You get a feeling for their speed as it bounces away from the trap. That female was the daughter of another female which we'd monitored before, and so all seems well. However, it is not always. Fires are a natural process, but their frequency and intensity, of course, all around the world has increased dramatically, and so too here in the Pantanal. Now, I am always amazed at the commitment of our field staff to go above and beyond. Our team cares about nature, but they care about people too. And so our team actually joined the local firefighters to try and take on this fire and to protect human infrastructures such as these wooden bridges bridges I've crossed myself, which are not just a key connector for people, but I'll tell you, it's also very nice because below them are caiman, which are basically like crocodiles that are teeming there. And you'd much prefer to go across the bridge than below it. So our team here, Fernando, for instance, joined the fight to help against these fires. And you just get a feeling for the dedication in their work. This is the type of inferno that they were in. Here you see the aftermath. It was estimated that 17 million vertebrates died in this fire. Ocelots, which had previously been seen on camera, were hardly ever seen again, those individuals. But because of doing good science, we were able to establish that actually ocelots repopulated very quickly, immigrating from other areas because they had healthy populations. However, at other times, or for more sensitive species, we might not be as lucky. As John talked about, we care about all 40 species of wildcats and the vast landscapes on which they depend. And those landscapes, not just in terms of the species, but in terms of sustaining both biodiversity and people too. So we ask, how are those small cats doing? And so we take a view, different names here from different regions in the Americas, Africa, Asia, and we see that those with red boxes actually are threatened species or near threatened species, meaning that they slip closer to extinction. So that's bad news to start, but then we ask, how are their trends going now? And the answer is not very well. The red down arrows mean that they are declining further, which means they need help. Does this mean, though, that it's hopeless? No, it does not, because under Europe, for instance, with the Iberian lynx, you see a green arrow pointing up. Iberian lynx were down to just 62 mature individuals 20 years ago, and are now back to over 2,000 individuals in the wild because of protecting the lynx, protecting their prey, and protecting the habitat for reintroductions, which have been very successful. And so I love this quote that John actually just wrote to me one day, but I want to share with you. Our success is defined as vibrant and growing populations of small cats in their ecosystems. Wouldn't it be exciting if we were able to turn the tables and see species move, for example, from endangered or vulnerable to near threatened and eventually to least concern? Whatever the timing of such success, our work to protect small wildcats will never end, and I remain dedicated to supporting this vital work in the field in ways that I'm able. We all share a calling for wildcats. So thank you again, John, for this inspiration. Now, as we go further afield, we travel to Borneo, a very precious place with precious ecosystems, and there we meet the flat-headed cat. Now, can you believe that this flat-headed cat actually has webbed feet? Webbed feet so that it can travel and hunt in its aquatic environments. Can you also believe that this species, which almost no one has ever heard of, is just as endangered as the tiger? And so you can imagine the excitement when our field team heads out, spying on the species, hopefully with cameras, to see footage such as this. A flat-headed cat heading out into the night in search of prey. And then also seeing a time lapse, for instance, of a flat-headed cat with a snakefish in its mouth. Who said that cats don't like water? But these habitats, they contain more endangered species, such as the clouded leopard, a beautiful animal, amazing. I think they can open their mouth wider than other cats. Their canines are bigger for the size of their body than for other cats, but they very much need our help because they require pristine habitats such as this that are teeming with a diversity of plant life, supporting a diversity of different prey species. As you can see, providing in many ways the lungs of the earth for us again with clean air, clean water. However, these forests are under threat On the one side, you see the natural forest. On the other side, you see plants of one species only, the oil palm, to provide palm oil for us, converting the landscape entirely into one monoculture that these cats have trouble existing in. So you might want to turn up your volume for some of these videos, but here's one from Borneo.
Hi, Axel. Brooke here. Sorry to interrupt. We don't have any sound on the video.
Okay, let's try that again. Sorry about this. Okay.
Habitats.
I think we heard sound if you want to try playing it again. There we go. Thank you, Axel.
That's fine. We'll just go from the start.
It's the third largest island in the world and has a unique landscape home to orangutans, sun bears, and 5 wildcat species, including the Sunda clouded leopard. Within the growing human-dominated landscapes on the island, poorly planned infrastructure development and uncontrolled agricultural expansion are fragmenting and isolating habitats. This threatens the Sunda clouded leopard and prevents natural migration. Clouded leopards can be targeted by poachers for their skins and body parts, and there is also evidence that clouded leopards are killed as bycatch. Globally, clouded leopards are classified by the IUCN as vulnerable. Within Panthera's project area in the Duramakot core and buffer areas in Sabah, Malaysia and Borneo, Panthera is working with our partners to protect Sunda clouded leopards. We are bolstering the site security work of the Sabah Forestry and Wildlife Departments, conducting smart patrols and incorporating our deep forest counter-poaching operations. Panthera also implements biennial camera trap surveys to monitor clouded leopard populations, enabling us to evaluate the effectiveness of our conservation actions.
So you see, the approach here is we use science to figure out a problem, to take action in terms of making interventions that make a difference together with local people. Now, let's go on to Thailand, where we meet the fishing cat. Again, a species under threat. Now, sometimes only their bones will remain from roadkills or because they're actually killed by people. Why? Because they kill chickens or, in some cases, fish that are being farmed. And so how do we try to save a species in a place where it's actually causing a problem? Well, by working with local people, by creating local capacity, having rangers, and doing research that then shows us where the species roams, what habitats they are found in, and how they might come into contact with people. It also helps us to find places that are dangerous, for example, that have snares that would kill fishing cats. And so again, this is a quieter video, but it is of the voices of the local people in Thailand that we're supporting, not just in terms of rangers, but even with school children. See the subtitles below, as we just see a fishing cat getting comfortable here in the night.
ให้ที่อาศัยเสือปลาอนุรักษ์เสือปลาครับให้ความปลอดภัยเสือปลาครับสร้างที่อยู่เสือปลาครับ
เมื่อก่อนไม่มีเทคโนโลยีที่จะเรียนรู้เกี่ยวกับสัตว์ซึ่งปัจจุบันเราก็ได้รับการสนับสนุนของ Panthera Thailand นะครับไม่ว่าจะเป็นอุปกรณ์แล้วก็องค์ความรู้ต่างๆมาให้เจ้าหน้าที่อุทยานซึ่งทำให้กองตัวอุทยานก็มีฐานข้อมูลเพิ่มขึ้นนะครับผมก็ได้ทักษะการติดตั้งกล้องถ่ายภาพสัตว์ครับแล้วก็มีการติดปลอกคอแล้วก็คือเหมือนได้ทักษะแล้วก็ได้การพัฒนาเพิ่มขึ้นนะครับ
Here you see a trap being set, and then a fishing cat that's being examined for its health, so we can subsequently monitor it.
กับชาวบ้านนี่เริ่มจะเข้ากันได้เพราะว่าด้วยเหตุผลความสูญเสียของสัตว์เลี้ยงในเรื่องของเสือป่าไปรบกวนเขาก็ได้รับความช่วยเหลืออย่างสมเหตุสมผลถ้าเข้าไปจริงอะไรไปจริงกล้องจับได้อะไรได้ว่า การตายของสัตว์เลี้ยงมาจากฝีมือของเสือป่าเขาก็ยินดีที่จะชดใช้นะในเรื่องของสัตว์เลี้ยงเขาก็ช่วยเหลือเราคิดว่ามันก็เป็นแนวทางที่ที่ทำให้ลดข้อขัดแย้งแล้วก็คิดว่าในอนาคตมันก็จะเป็นเรื่องที่ดีต่อไปกับเสือป่าคนก็สบายใจ
The key here is remember, these cats are a problem. And the end of the headman of the community statement is the farmers are happy. That is an accomplishment because we actually help farmers such as this and make the chickens coops proof again against predators. And we work with the local fishermen as well. Now, let us go to Southern Africa. And here, in this type of landscape, I just want to give you a small warning. We're going to be looking at the most ferocious killer of all small cats. They are successful in about 60% of their hunts, which they need to be because they have to eat about 20% of their body weight every day. So please be careful. Is this one of my favorites, the beautiful black-footed cat. And don't get me wrong, they are ferocious killers, even though they are also adorable. Looking out onto the landscape, they keep a watchful eye for the prey, and they'll sneak up on them just like your cat at home might do with a toy. But of course, they eventually have to find some nourishment. Sadly, however, black-footed cats are prone to a particular disease, which is actually a major mortality factor. So we want to actually upscale our efforts to work in these areas to help the species again. And now we travel to Costa Rica, where we have, for instance, the oncilla, but sadly, we will find them oftentimes dead on the roads. However, our team is there to help, and they've put together some nice videos for you in Spanish, subtitled in English, showing their remarkable efforts.
El proyecto de Caminos Amigables con los Felinos se enfoca en la ecología de carreteras, trabaja específicamente sobre las rutas nacionales. Nos enfocamos en el monitoreo de fauna silvestre atropellada para recomendar medidas que permitan implementar pasos para la fauna que encontramos en las áreas de estudio. Esta sección de la Ruta 2, 45 kilómetros que están entre dos bloques de áreas protegidas. Todo el bloque de Parque Nacional Tapantí Macizo de la Muerte, el Parque Nacional Los Quetzales y la Reserva Forestal Los Santos. Llegamos a un estimado anual de 3.500 animales silvestres atropellados. Tenemos a la danta, que es una especie en peligro de extinción, tenemos el tigrillo, tenemos un conejo que es endémico, tenemos aves que son endémicas. Eso convierte esta área en un sitio donde tenemos que aumentar los esfuerzos de conservación y protección. Estamos aquí por saber qué está ocurriendo en la carretera, en los márgenes de la carretera. Vamos a usar esa información para definir qué medidas necesitamos para que Ruta 2 sea segura, no solo para los animales silvestres, sino también para las personas. Revisamos los datos que obtenemos durante el día para ir armando una base de datos que es la que nos va a brindar los mapas de calor que nos van a permitir identificar los puntos específicos de mayor atropello, las especies que obtenemos en mayor cantidad y así poder implementar entonces o recomendar las medidas acorde a cada grupo atropellado. Cuando uno trabaja en un sitio tiene que recopilar el conocimiento local, entonces se hicieron entrevistas para que las personas de la comunidad pudieran aportar su conocimiento en el tema. Tienen un conocimiento amplio de la zona, conocen las especies que hay.
Las cámaras trampa son tecnologías no invasivas, dispositivos que funcionan con un sensor de movimiento. Cuando el animal pasa frente a la cámara, la activa, toma una foto o inicia a grabar un video, depende de la configuración que tengamos y depende del objetivo del estudio que nosotros queremos en ese momento. Estamos instalando cámaras a ambos lados de la carretera. El grillo está en el área, se acerca a la calle, la cruza, lo atropellan. También nos dimos a la tarea de saber cuántas alcantarillas o drenajes habían bajo la calle. En algunos casos, cuando están secas, los animales pueden usarlas para cruzar. Tuvimos que hacer inventario de los drenajes porque esa es una ruta muy vieja, ¿verdad?
se tiene inventario solo de las grandes. Todos los demás pequeños no se tiene un inventario, entonces lo tuvimos que hacer.
Como casi 2 metros de tierra, piedras, maleza, troncos, un poco de basura, enterrada, botellas, plástico. Fue un trabajo duro, pero la satisfacción de haber destapado eso y como de cada vez ir acercándose más, como que a uno lo inspira. Yo agarraba más fuerza y empezaba a darle más fuerte para terminar más rápido y hasta que lo logramos.
El proyecto Caminos Amigables con los Felinos lleva más de 11 años trabajando en conjunto con el MOP y seguirá trabajando en conjunto con el MOP, con el MINAE, apoyando todos estos procesos, porque algunos de estos procesos son nuevos para el país. Necesita cierto acompañamiento para que podamos probar el procedimiento y asegurarlo a largo plazo.
I'm just so inspired by the hard work of these teams. And really, it is about that long-term security, isn't it? What I love here is the engagement and the scalability, not just from a cool idea, great solution, but actually working with government to scale across the country, and now actually being able to implement that in neighboring countries too. So that is exactly the type of approach that we want to take. Now, finally, let's go to Chile, where we find another one of the precious wild cats, such as this adorable Huina. Like so many of the small cats, they receive relatively little support, but they are a threatened species as well, threatened with extinction. And as a world leader in, conservation of cats, we care about them, but we care, again, about the local communities as well. Healthy ecosystems, of course, support those human communities. And, they can help to improve the livelihood of rural communities as well. One of the ways, for instance, is through ecotourism, by protecting sites for cats that actually attracts valuable tourism dollars for these places and the people that need that support. And then that is also the case for the Andean cat. Here, high up in the Andes, is this cat that's important for these ecosystems, but it is also something more than that. To many of the local people, this species is sacred, culturally important. And our team has been working in northern Chile to study them in places like a private reserve where we put cameras to try and monitor them. But basically what we do is we actually work with the local people, with the local traditions, such as these women who are making handicrafts of Andean cats. And then together with a larger collaboration and working group, actually finding a process to commercialize that kind of product so that it gets to Western markets, so that it can return valuable currencies again. And when we work closely with local people, of course, they share information with us too, such as, for instance, where an Andean cat might be. You are looking again at a species elusive and just as endangered as the tiger. So I hope you get the feeling that our approach is we take science-based action. We try to look at the status of cat species so that we can make pragmatic and strategic decisions to put our efforts towards those species that need help the most. We look for evidence of what the problems or threats might be. We come up with innovations and take intervention actions, and then we evaluate the stability or the recovery of those species. And under a new small cat strategy, we're actually prioritizing in this way. Our first priority is to prevent the extinction of those 12 declining threatened species. And this represents significant growth for us because currently we only have mature programs for about 6 of these. Secondly, to mitigate risk of those near threatened species. And again, this is growth for us because we have program or mature program on about 1 of them. And thirdly, because we care about all of the small cats, we're actually developing an early warning system, an innovation by which we would use information from cameras of other Panthera projects or of other researchers in the world that might pick up small cats to determine when and how their populations might be in trouble so that we can intervene. So this is an amazing opportunity, I think, for 2 reasons. One, because the cats need our support. But secondly, because there's actually very few supporters in the world, and any that are engaged, we work with. So we have our global visionary in terms of John Ayres, and we're looking for those that want to step up to help support efforts on a continental level or on individual species level, looking for those species champions to really make a difference. It isn't just making a difference for Panthera, but actually because these efforts are generally under-supported for the species in general. So as we gaze into the future, I just want to make clear, we will let no small cat species slip to extinction on our watch. We will raise and leverage funding with all that want to make a difference. We will empower the champions of today and leaders of tomorrow to escalate change. We will collaborate scientifically to understand the challenges and innovate solutions. And we will partner with governments, with NGOs and corporations to tackle global issues. We will stand shoulder to shoulder with local communities and indigenous peoples to take courageous action on the ground. Finally, we will share both the challenges and the ultimate successes to inspire a global movement that saves small cats around the world. Now, small wild cats can't speak for themselves, but I think if they could, many would ask for help. We have a good start, but so much more needs to be done. And we have teams that have the skills, the track record, the passion, the tenacity, the commitment to make a difference. But we cannot do this alone. In fact, we don't even want to do it alone. I am so privileged in my position to be able to help small wild cats, and it enriches my life. And we want to share the joy of making a difference together. So these small cats, again, we will not let them slip away to extinction. We will help them. And we hope that you will join us to recover these species, to protect the ecosystems that they benefit, and to create a healthier planet again for all of us. Thank you so much.